Today's What the Hell Karen will not be a normal one. This video is focusing on the maskless woman who coughed in the face of another woman at a Pier 1 store in June of 2020. Note, I'm only using parts of the 3+ hour sentencing hearing of the woman who coughed in this video. The link to the full video is in the description below. Also note, this video is going to be a long one. I didn't want to split it up into 2 parts because of the nature of the video.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Perhaps you are not as strong as the Emperor thought.
This is Heather Sprague. She is a mother of 10 who has a brain tumor and a compromised immune system. And because of that, she rarely gets out due to the pandemic. However, during a rare trip out to Pier 1, she happened to record Debra Jo Hunter having a Karen moment.
Do you really need this? What do you want to do? Post it for you? How about that? Good. I think I'll get real close to you and cough on you then. How's that?
Oh,
asshole.
Wow. No. No. No way.
Let's go.
Debra was charged with misdemeanor assault in June of 2020. During her sentencing hearing, Heather had a chance to give her victim's impact statement to the court. I have left in her whole statement as the judge was asking her questions while she was giving it.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I'm speaking with you today at the invitation of the State Attorney's Office in order to give the court some insight into the impact these events have had on my life. And I hope that my statements will aid the court in the sentencing process. In order to fully understand the impact of the defendant's assault on me, it's important, I think, to have some background information regarding my life leading up to the assault. My husband and I are the parents of 10 children. The youngest 4 are siblings who came home.
Did you say, how many kids did you say, ma'am?
Now I wonder if I should admit it. We're parents of 10 children, Your Honor.
Good. Oh my, what a blessing. Okay. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Our youngest 4 children came home to us through adoption from our foster care system, their siblings. And the day following the finalization of our adoption, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And immediately I began radiation and drug therapies in an attempt to slow the tumor progression and treat symptoms. When those interventions failed, I underwent brain surgery at Mayo Clinic to remove as much of the tumor as was safe. My treatment was ongoing at the time of the assault, and I continue to undergo treatment at Mayo to curb the growth of the remaining tumor and to treat symptoms.
Sorry, what did you just say?
I said that my treatment was ongoing at the time of the assault, and I continue to undergo treatment at Mayo
And you said something else after that.
just to curb the growth of the remaining tumor and
Okay.
symptoms.
Yes, ma'am. Continue.
So on the day of the incident, when I chose to intervene after observing 15 minutes of escalating beratement and bullying of the store staff by the defendant, I chose the least possible.
Did you say 15 minutes?
Yes, Your Honor. The incident was already going on when I walked in the door, and it was a full 15 minutes that it went on before it escalated to the point where I felt like I needed to up to what was going on.
Well, what did you witness?
When I first came in, I noticed just 2 children unattended, and that had my attention, and there was a bit of an argument at the register, someone trying to make a return, and soon it became apparent that those children belonged to the person who is Miss Hunter, who was at the register trying to return an item. It was escalating, her frustration was escalating. She was swearing at, threatening, and the store staff was was pleasant and trying to placate, but she,
Okay, when you say swearing, what words?
uh, um, I don't think that I could quote Hinton, but
You don't think, you don't know what?
I don't think that I could quote exactly what she was saying to them.
You don't remember the words? You can give the initials if you don't want to.
It's not a hesitation to say bad words in public, Your Honor. It's just that what registered in my mind was that here was a woman who was swearing at the store staff in front of her children. So I don't think that I committed her words to memory.
Was she speaking to one person or a group of people that worked at the store?
It was first a clerk and then a manager and then another manager. And she was attempting to return an item that she didn't have in her possession. She just had a picture of the item on her phone to show the store staff. You can see that it's broken. Why? And anyway, it was escalating to the point that when.
Okay, wait, did you say she was attempting to return something, but she didn't have the item, but it was depicted on the phone?
Yes. And she was getting increasingly furious that they could see that it was broken in the picture on the phone. Why couldn't it be returned? And they, at one point, she said if they wanted it back, they needed to come to her house and get it then. And it was very intense, and it was escalating to the point where I didn't feel like I could just leave it be and walk out of the store and shake my head. So when Miss Hunter's child needed to use the restroom and the store staff told her, we don't have one here, but if you go around the corner, we'll try to look this receipt up. And when Miss Hunter shouted that she was going to stand here screaming as loud as she pleased until all the customers left, until they made this right, and she positioned herself at the exit to the cash registers.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm hearing you correct. She said she was going to scream as loud as she could until everyone in the store heard what she was saying.
Well, they had been trying to calm her down, that she was upsetting other customers. And when they invited her to take her son to the restroom and they would continue trying to look up the receipt, then she stated her intention that she would continue her behavior until she got her way. And so it had escalated to the place where she was blocking the exit, and I felt like I couldn't just not step in. So if that shapes what my reasoning, I've never taken my phone out and intervened or filmed anything or posted anything before, but this wasn't an instance. It was intense enough that I felt like I needed to step in.
Okay, so then what happened, ma'am?
So I knowing that saying something to this customer would only escalate, I chose the least confrontational form of stepping in that I could think of. And so before I raised my camera and began visibly filming, Miss Hunter and I had no interaction whatsoever, not so much as eye contact. 100% of our interaction is captured in that short video evidence, and the video has not been altered or edited or shortened in any way. The defendant's children were not being filmed. They had distanced themselves from her and were toward the front of the store. And as the video indicates, it was only after Miss Hunter turned her aggression to me and walked across the store to carry out her threat that her child wandered over to investigate what was happening. At no time did Miss Hunter ask me to stop filming. And on the contrary, her first statement was an acknowledgement that she knew her behavior to the store staff was being documented. Her second statement was an acknowledgement that the video could be shared. And then, fully cognizant of these facts, Ms. Hunter still chose to escalate further in her aggression.
How did she convey? Do you remember the words she used to indicate that she knew she was being videoed and that she?
Yes, I believe that
the possibility was going to be shared.
Yes, so the video captures, I held my phone up, she looked over to me, and And that was the first time she noticed me and the first time we interacted. And she said, "What, you really need this?" Indicating she saw that she was being documented. And then she said, what do you need me to post it for you? Indicating that she understood that this could be shared. And so cognizant of those facts, she still chose to escalate. I feel like she had adequate time to consider her actions. She had several seconds more to reconsider her chosen course as she crossed the store to me. And still, she gave herself permission to behave in this manner.
So what was the distance from that you were standing to her before she walked over to you?
She had positioned herself at the exit to the cash registers, and I was across the store, just at the end of an aisle. I would be hard pressed to put a number on the number of feet.
How many steps? I mean,
7 steps, 10 steps. I'm not sure.
So she had to walk over to you?
She had to take several steps over. So this was not me in her face or at an arm's distance. This was, there was some travel time between her and me wherein she could reconsider her course.
Okay, so what happened when she reached you?
Before she reached me, anyway, little flustered going back into that moment, Your Honor, was
okay. Understandable.
She so she indicated, what do you want me to post it for you? And then she said, I think I'll get real close to you and cough in your face then. How's that? How about that? She took the time.
She said those words?
Yes, Your Honor. She took the time to give offensive hand gestures. I think the kids call it flipping me off, or the double bird.
Okay, excuse me, with the double bird?
Yes, the double flip off hand signal. I don't know what the kiddos are calling it these days. But so she took the time to do that, and then to say, I think I'll get real close and cough on your face then. How's that? And then she walked over to me, got close enough in my face directly in my face and coughed. And I feel like the time that she had to consider what her course of action was when she saw that she didn't like being held accountable for her treatment of store staff, I feel like that was not the knee-jerk reaction of an overprotective mama bear. It was an episode that was rooted in privilege and entitlement, and it was targeted to exploit and attack vulnerability with an assumption of an immunity to consequences. As the court will no doubt recall, at the early point in the pandemic when this incident occurred here in our area, masking was not mandatory and it was not universal. Only those of us considered at risk were wearing masks in public. The day of the assault, I was one of very few wearing a mask, not only to guard my own compromised immune system, but to guard against the risk of transmitting COVID to my youngest children. Their early experiences of severe neglect and abuse had left them with a diagnosis of failure to thrive when they first came home to us, and therefore a weaker immune system moving forward. It was a time of universal fear and uncertainty, and I was doing my best to protect myself and my family. Upon seeing my mask as an indication of vulnerability at that time and choosing this particular mode of attack, the defendant's act of coughing in my face at the height of a pandemic was an act that was calculated to attack me at my weakest point, both physically and psychologically. I was stunned in the moment and increasingly fearful in the aftermath. The intention of the defendant's actions could only have been to transmit sickness or to leave me fearful that I had been infected. I worried for the health and safety of my family and wondered how in the world I could possibly isolate to protect them in a household of 12 if I had been intentionally infected. I scrambled to find COVID testing that was not readily accessible at that time, and ultimately I paid out of pocket to be tested. The results of the COVID test were negative, but the impact of this incident didn't end with a negative COVID test. I felt strongly at the time, and I continue to feel.
Let me ask you a question. So when she coughed, did you feel anything coming from her mouth other than maybe breath? Did you feel any, I know this is gross, that's not a legal term, but did you feel any saliva or anything?
It was a forceful enough cough that her spittle landed on me.
It did. Okay.
So blinked and recoiled. And so I had a mask covering my nose and mouth, but not my eyes. Yes. So I felt strongly at the time, and I continue to feel strongly today that there should be some accountability for the actions of the defendant. So this is why I chose to report the assault. And so as the criminal case has progressed, each time I've been called upon to interact with the process, I again experienced that anxiety and anger and other emotions associated with the events. In the end, Your Honor, I am not seeking any specific consequence. I would simply ask that the machinery of justice work as it's intended to, and that the defendant be held accountable according to the dictates of the law. The exact measure of accountability that would be appropriate in this case, I leave to the wisdom of the court, and your decision today will bring closure for me and my family in this matter. So I thank you for allowing me time to speak today, Your Honor. Thank you.
Debra gets her turn to read a letter that she sent to the judge. I have clipped out a lot of what she said in the letter as it pertains to what she and her family have gone through since this incident.
I frequently tell my children that although gossip spreads like a wildflower on a windy day, eventually it will subside. But the truth is, I don't actually believe the reassurance I'm trying to provide. My kids are diligent in trying to hide it, but the bottom line is they're ashamed and embarrassed of me. The reality is that my family has been permanently scarred. And although that scar might fade over time, it will never completely disappear. My kids should not have to pay the price for my mistake. And I can overcome the ostracization. I can't even say this word. Ostracization. I wrote it, but I can't say it. I deserve it. My children do not. And although I am able to rationalize and even reconcile all of this, my children cannot. They have been greatly affected by the thousands of text messages, emails, phone calls, postings, threats, and even hand-delivered letters. How could they not? They live in the same house with the person to whom all of this venom is directed. It settles like dust around our home. You can't really see it, but you know it's there. And it is unreasonable and unrealistic to think they wouldn't be permanently damaged. They are children. They see, they hear, and they witness everything. My children, my husband, my 83-year-old mother, my siblings, members of my extended family, and so many others have been tainted, harassed, threatened, and shamed. And I know that there's been a lot of fallout for Miss Sprague as well, and likely for her family as well. I was and I am a very private person. I have never had an appetite for social media. The only purpose Facebook ever served in my life was to upload photos of my kids to share with family and friends. The full intention of my letter, Judge Ruth, is to provide you with a very small glimpse into the lives of my family. And what I have shared in this letter is really just the tip of the iceberg. And though it is very raw and surreal, what I have shared has sadly become our reality, and I don't want to be responsible for any more grief and strife from my family. My mistake will continue to affect all of us in some shape or form for the rest of our lives. I often wonder what it would be like if every one of us, as the flawed human beings we are, had their worst moments reduced to a short video for all the world to see and judge. And I would just like to add to that I think the hardest part of this is that that video shows me in the worst possible light on my worst possible day, and that's not who I am. that's not who I was before, and it certainly isn't who I am now. And if I could take it all back, I obviously would take it all back. You know, my husband's analogy with the bubble and the balloon, that's exactly what happened. It just kept, everything just kept piling on and piling on and piling on. And I just kept trying to push it down. And I just, that day, the pin just stuck in the balloon. And unfortunately for Miss Sprague, you know, she was the recipient of that. And for that, I apologize. And I believe that she knows that, because I did express that to her in my letter that I sent her very soon after.
You sent her a letter?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The judge now expresses some concerns that he has after hearing what Heather, Deborah, and other witnesses have said.
Mr. Carson.
Yes, sir.
What concerns me, so the reason why I'm telling you these things is so if you want to touch on them in your summation, you feel free. A common theme with the witnesses is that this was so out of character for her. This wasn't the person that we know. I've heard that over and over again. And it was a spur of a moment, but I'm hearing from the victim that this went on just 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I thought it was just this whole interaction only took place in about 5 seconds, but this whole tirade took place at least 15 minutes. And also, she shot a double bird, walked over to her. And until now, I didn't realize when she coughed, the lady actually felt wetness. And also she threatened to yell and raise her voice in the store to the extent that every customer in the store heard her. Also concerns me is that when her letters, the letter she wrote, she talked about what impact it had on her children and her family. And I understand the impact it had on.
I'm still in the sentencing hearing.
It had on the children. They didn't create this problem, and the husband didn't create this problem. And she talked about how it changed her world, and you know, she's getting the nasty grams on Facebook and things of that nature, and they can't go to the country club or wherever, can't play soccer. I get that. But I've yet to see any expression or a significant expression on her regret about the impact it had on the victim in this case. The lady had surgery, she's had cancer. Now I'm finding out that she has these children who had some issues, potentially. They may have had compromised immune system. So I'm not hearing, I didn't hear much about your client's concern for the actual victim in this case. She talked about how it, you know, how much she suffered and her family has suffered, but I haven't heard about the potential deadly impact this could have had on the victim. Not only because of COVID, but someone who has cancer and a compromised immune system, and you add the children aspect, it could have been deadly consequences. So I hadn't heard any mention of any of that. And in fact, I'm shocked to know that the victim this is the first time she heard that the accused had taken the COVID test and it was negative. You would think that would have been something she would have wanted to get to the victim as soon as possible. Anyway, and this COVID is a reality. Over 500,000 people have died as a result of COVID and COVID complications. It started out, it says the doctors and the experts, the medical providers said, in no time flat, all of us will know someone who was affected by COVID. Then it changed to now everyone in this country will know someone who succumbed and passed as a result of COVID. Across the country, Florida, even in my courtroom, in the courthouse, we've lost people. My bailiff lost, everyone in this household had COVID, and he lost his wife and his mother-in-law to COVID. So and not to mention, even if she didn't have COVID, she had a compromise. This is so anyway, those are my thoughts. So I'll let you talk about it in your summation. And I saw in the letter she mentioned that she was protective of her children. But 15 minutes, and the children, the victims said were not in the vicinity, or they were happy-go-lucky doing something at a different location. Also, I heard she said she was concerned about social media and things of that nature. And I heard her say, here, let me give you something to put on social media in so many words. So anyway, all right, so Mr. Carson.
Yeah, sure.
Her attorney now gets his chance to speak and understandably is trying to give his client the best chance at a lenient sentence. The judge does weigh in from time to time while her attorney is speaking. Again, I'm only showing parts of it.
So I think it's probably going to be best, Judge. Let me start by addressing some of the points that the court just brought up. First off, in terms of the test, I can absolutely offer for the court, and I can go into my office and look at my case notes on my software here. I don't have the ability to do it as I sit right here. But I know for a fact within, I think, a few days, I don't remember the exact time period because it's been a while, but within a few days of all this happening, I had a negative COVID test in my hand, and that was absolutely relayed to the state attorney's office. I don't recall, I'm fairly certain it was to Mr. Edwards that it was relayed to. I feel like there was an intern in your division at some point. It might have gone to her, but I know that prior to arraignment in the case, which I think looking at the file was in August, I know that information had been conveyed. Certainly that's horrible if Ms. Sprague did not get that information, because I'm sure that was a source of a lot of anxiety.
Assuming what you said is accurate, I know you'd be an honorable man, but it's unconscionable that she wasn't immediately notified of that it was a negative results. Then her concern would be just her compromised immune system in general. But all right, continue.
And I fully understand that, Judge. I'm certainly not disputing that point. I mean, that's absolutely a big deal. I guess the practical issue, there's a no victim contact order in place for my client, and I tend to just not go straight to a victim, particularly in a case where she probably just doesn't want a cold call from a defense attorney. So just as a practical matter, I mean, I don't want to put her on the spot or anything like that. So I simply relayed what information I had to the state attorney, who my understanding was that they were in regular contact. I mean, if that was not accurate, I certainly apologize for that. I mean, that was in no way, shape, or form my intent. I agree with the court. It is something that needs to happen very quickly given the circumstances. I completely agree with that. Now, in terms of some of the other issues that the court addressed, as far as what was in the store, obviously what was captured on video it's just simply not good in terms of the picture it paints regarding Miss Hunter. And I don't doubt that there were probably some things in the lead up to the, I think, 40 seconds of video that we just saw that were likewise rather unflattering. From what I understand, just even from reading the arrest and booking or the affidavit for the arrest warrant in the case, I think there was a degree of escalation that went on. I don't believe that this was a situation where Miss Hunter just stormed into Pier 1 screaming and looking for a fight. I mean, I don't doubt that there was escalation. There was certainly frustration. I have oftentimes wanted to scream when I'm talking to customer service about something. And again, it doesn't, I'm certainly not giving blessing to the behavior. But I get the sense that there was a progression here.
I need
it wasn't
to
just
the record. I have shopped at my family at that Pier 1, and I never had any kind of issue. I mean, I never had an issue.
Judge, I'm certainly not
Staff
saying
was always very accommodating, very accommodating.
I'm not disputing that in the least, Judge. And again, my client has indicated that this was all of her doing. This is not a circumstance where she's trying to say anyone from, you know, Pier 1 or Miss Sprague got out of line. She has never indicated that to me on any level. What I sense happened is that there was quite a bit of backstory as far as the issue with Pier 1. It progressed to a point where she went to the store, her frustration grew and continued to grow. And at some point it spilled over into something that was not appropriate behavior, which then just exploded into the 40 seconds that were caught on video. And again, not justifying it, not trying to excuse it. It's there. The video absolutely speaks for itself. And it is not a situation where that behavior should be condoned or in any way supported. And candidly, Miss Hunter herself has been very forthright in the sense that she knows she messed up horribly on that day. And she knows that it is not something that is appropriate. She knows that for a fact. So as far as that's concerned, though, Judge, I obviously wasn't there. I did not witness what happened in the run up to the video. But I can, just the way that some of the reports in the case, I just get the sense that there was a progression to it. It wasn't just her going in there immediately looking for a fight and just blowing her lid at everyone around her. And again, that's just my take on the situation, but I have spoken about that with my client. And I have also reviewed a lot of information in the case that I think to a degree that is actually how that all progressed. Again, doesn't justify the ultimate behavior. What the tail end of it, what was captured on video, is certainly less than what we would want from someone.
Does your client disagree that that she was problematic, to put it mildly, for close to 15 minutes before she basically coughed in the lady's face? Is she saying that's not accurate?
Well, may I have just a moment with my client, Your Honor? She may be prepared to answer the question herself.
You asked. Okay, she wrote a lengthy letter to me. I'm not sure if you were aware of it until I mentioned it in court. And I gave her an opportunity. I told her to slow down and go through it to make sure she had a chance to put everything on the record. I afforded her the opportunity to testify, but I've yet to hear her say anything that she was concerned about the victim's physical well-being, her health, or what impact of it must have had on her and her family, considering she was in treatment, cancer, with surgery, and things of that nature, not only for possible COVID exposure, but from just germs and in general with a compromised immune system. And I didn't realize that her children had compromised immune system, but there was no mention from your client of concerns about what her mental and physical state must have been after she coughed on her. And not only with her breath and whatever, she actually felt dampness or whatever you want to call it, coming from your client's mouth. I've yet to hear her say that, you know, I regret that I put what I put her through mentally and physically, and her family, and it could have been a death sentence.
I don't dispute that, Judge, and the court's concern is not lost on me. To be fair,
I know it's not lost on you, but it seems like it's lost on your client. Go ahead.
Judge, what I'm getting at though is some of what the court is expressing in terms of Miss Sprague's children, and candidly, at the moment this all transpired, obviously my client was not aware of Miss Sprague's personal medical condition. She certainly came to learn it. But as it relates to her medical condition, as it relates to her children, all the stuff with the children, the fact that there may have actually been, I guess, spittle that went onto Miss Sprague's face, I don't think any of us knew that until we saw Miss Sprague's letter, which was, I think, about a week ago. And then some of the other information just came out in court today.
I didn't see a letter until the only thing I know is what she testified to today.
I know, Judge, you indicated that you're not heavily involved with social media, things of that nature, and I get it.
I'm not heavily, not involved, period.
Not involved, which candidly, I wish more people were in that position, because it, by and large, has probably hurt us more than it's helped us as a society. But that's an aside. It's there, and it's in the forefront of many of our lives. And one of the things that has always kind of struck me about this case, the way in which something goes viral and kind of does this snowball where it just grows and grows and grows has very much struck me about this situation. And some of what we submitted to the court, we sent over a number of correspondences to Your Honor, and they weren't done for shock value. They were only a drop in the bucket in terms of what sort of, I think the term that my client used was venom, in terms of what sort of venom came at her. And again, it doesn't justify, or it doesn't necessarily punish in the way that a court could as far as her behavior on the day in question was concerned, but it is something that has fundamentally changed her life. And when Miss Hunter was what is called doxxed, when she was put out there, her business, her family, where she lived, all of those things, it resulted in this massive fallout where she lost a business that she had spent huge amounts of time and energy building, and just straight up lost it. She owned vacation rentals through Airbnb and VRBO, and she was just shut down. One of the correspondences we sent to Your Honor was a message on social media that directed individuals to go to those sites and complain so that her business was shut down. And they were successful in doing that. And that was what she did. Her husband works. She maintained and dealt with those rentals, which was a business she had built over a protracted period of time. And she just straight up lost that in the immediate fallout from this. And that's just the economic toll. The court did hear a lot about the personal toll that was undergone by her and her family. And again, that doesn't minimize what Miss Sprague went through here. She went through all the same, independent of how all of the internet masses addressed Miss Hunter. But at the end of the day, it is and continues to be an absolutely massive price that she has paid as far as everything that went on here. She had tenants that she lost in her houses just by virtue of knowing who she was. That in a sense, scarlet letter that she was branded with by virtue of the internet just created absolutely massive fallout that is borderline unimaginable for someone who has not been in the crosshairs like that. And in the days of social media, 15, 20 years ago, yes, this would have been the same issue in the sense that Miss Sprague had to deal with everything related to the case, but it just would not have gained nearly such notoriety because that's a product of the age in which we live and the way that the internet, viral videos, and all of that function. So
she, in her letter to me, she said one of the reasons, the main reason why she did this was because she didn't want her children to be filmed. Well, video. Well, first of all, I didn't know until today it was 15 minutes of inappropriateness. And the children, for the most part, were at a different part of the store. You did see a little glimpse of one of the children. Also, I didn't know until today that there was actually saliva that came out of her mouth onto the victim. And also, she's complained about social media and such. But I heard her in the video, she says, okay, you want to record, let me give you something to record. Put that out there or something. So those were her words. Those was her words. So therefore, she can't say she was concerned about what was going to be on social media when that's what she said to the victim. So anything else, folks, from the defense of the state?
Well, Judge, if I may just briefly address.
Finally, it's the judge's time to hand down his sentence.
This is a second-degree misdemeanor, which is punishable up to 60 days in Duval County Jail and up to a probationary period up to 6 months. I will adjudicate you guilty, place you on 6 months probation with the understanding you will be required to participate in the mental health evaluation and follow-up treatment if the counsel determines it is appropriate, and also parenting skills in light of what took place, your behavior in the presence of the children. And it's reasonable for me to believe that wasn't the only episode the children had witnessed. Also, or been exposed. Also, anger management, and it'll be $500 fine plus surcharge. How many days credits does she have?
1 day, Your Honor.
It'll be also 30 days Duval County Jail